I unmute? What's the hold up? Yes, sir. We are back. Yes, sir. Looking all right. It's been 3 wild days, Alex. I will say that. It has been a stellar couple of days, and couldn't be more excited to be here discussing a little bit of the Daily Dose with yours truly, Alex Hunt. Absolutely. He did. And you know what? I think that was a thought that everybody kind of had going into this, knowing his previous history in the All Star game or in the home run derby, I should say. Hey, he plays in both. When he gets called into the All Star game, he's also playing in the home run derby. So he is. So yeah, to see him switch hitting and it really didn't seem to impact his overall performance very much. The field of derbyists were it was a little deep this year, I would say. I think the field was stacked compared to what it has been in previous years, and personally I thought one of the more surprising candidates ultimately won the home run derby. What was your opinion on the out? He's insane. The polar bear looked frozen. I'll say it. I'll say it. The polar bear looked like he slipped on a little bit of ice on his way in. Sure. Very, very likely. He did. You know, one thing with Jose that surprised me was he has used different pitchers. Well, and I understand it's part of the staff and you get to select who you have throw you the ball, but in years past the pitching has been iffy, I would say. I don't think Jose's performance was on him. I personally think, I mean, he did great. Don't get me wrong, he did great, but I think he could have done better if whoever was throwing to him had given him a little bit of an idea of kind of the pitches that he's going to be throwing. I get it. It's a little difficult to gauge where you're throwing. Once you're out there and you're under the bright lights. I mean, you're on live TV, so I mean, there's not much room for error necessarily. But I thought a couple of the throws that put Jose into a little bit of a slump in terms of him hitting the home runs. I think some of the throws were a little low. A little bit. A couple of them were a little too far outside. That Jose was reaching for a couple of them. And those were the ones that ultimately, ended in pop outs or line outs. But once he made contact with some of those pitches, I mean, he sent them far. So, if he could have made contact with a couple more of those and put them into play, he would have taken that number one spot, and I think it would have been a swing off between him and Bobby Witt ultimately. Right. Man, what a surprise that was. What a surprise. And to see Gunnar Henderson and a couple of those other guys, Pete Alonso was also near the end there. Um, Adolis Garcia was also near the end there, hometown guy for the Rangers. Couple guys at the end there. I get you kind of got to split them up a little bit, but yeah, for Bohm to start the Derby off and take that lead and hold it strong for the first round there. That was pretty impressive, and I think he was even shocked with his own performance to start the Derby off like that. I mean, good lord, you got to give yourself some credit. Yep. No. No, 100%. 100%. I didn't expect that at all. And you know what? On my little sports betting app that I use, I threw a couple dollar parlays down just just to see if any of them won, and I missed on all of them. I picked Gunnar Henderson. I threw Jose in there. I had to throw Jose in there. So a Henderson, Ramirez, and I think I picked. Oh gosh, who else was in? You know what? I think I picked Pete Alonso because he's an experienced home run derby guy. I really didn't think he was gonna only hit what was it, 11 or 12 in total. Well, yeah, yeah, 100, 100%. No, and you know what? You know what? I don't think anybody deserved it more than Jose. You could have made somewhat of a case if you wanted to switch things up and throw Josh Naylor in there, but at the end of the day, they want to choose names that people, even some of the casual fans, have an idea of who they are. And I mean, even a name like Jose Ramirez off a small market team like yours truly, the Guardians. I mean, you've it's a no brainer. You got to throw Jose in there, especially after he's had a first half of the season that is definitely one to remember in terms of his overall career. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. One thing I do want to mention, however, aside from the Derby itself, is prior to the Derby, we heard the national anthem that
Oh no! Oh, not
went
the national
viral.
anthem.
I don't know if any of you viewers at home necessarily heard it, but it was terrible. It was
Awful.
absolutely
No
terrible.
good. Very bad.
I was standing here actually laughing out loud at the fact that they had this woman
Uh,
who seemed to be very unprepared, and she ultimately came out and said that she was intoxicated prior to singing the national anthem. So you can't go on live TV drunk and expect
no.
to nail the national anthem. I mean,
No,
you
you
just
can't. You can't. You simply. I mean, first and foremost, if you didn't watch, we'll get the context. The closest thing I could think about is just remember the NBA All Star Game a couple years back. I was it Fergie? Was it not? Was it not Fergie? Because
it
that
was it was someone like that.
I don't care who it was. Let me get closer to the mic. I don't care who it was. It was awful, and this was just as bad, and it might have even been worse. And she was drunk. Imagine getting the opportunity to to sing the national anthem at the MLB Home Run Derby, and you're bottle sipping before.
Slugging it.
Oh man, I mean that's
Unreal.
absolutely ridiculous.
So she's actually a well-known country singer, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I mean she is a fairly popular country singer, but nonetheless, I mean that's what a if you're gonna do that, at least like bail. Like why would you go up and just completely let your embarrass yourself like that? It'd be less embarrassing if you just didn't show up.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. And they did right by, and hopefully they already had the singer for the All Star game itself planned out prior, because I mean he nailed it. He
Yo, it
sang
was
really
that
good.
was really good. That
Yeah,
was really really good.
and so and the one thing I said first was, did they not have this chick rehearse these? Like, do they not rehearse like
They
pretty seriously?
No, they do, but I think it's hours. She might have went up there and thought she sounded bad, and she went back into her dressing room and she started drinking a little bit to calm the nerves. And next thing you know, she's excited, she's here, she's whatever. I mean, and to be fair, she could just be a complete nutter drunkie. I mean,
Oh,
she
yeah.
could just be an absolute, not complete and utter needs to go to rehab drunkie. So that could also that's very much a factor into that as well.
You know, like you had said though, it's a fair point to have said she may have just been trying to take the nerves off, and maybe she had a couple shots of
Too many.
one of her favorite whiskeys or some kind of liquor, and she peaked. She peaked when she had to go out there and sing, and
No,
that's not good.
I don't know what she did, but it was one too many, and a little embarrassing. I mean, it might have made Fergie look good. It might have made Fergie look semi decent. I mean, to be fair, Fergie had the whole All Star team laughing middle of our national anthem, like the country's united to one place to go, and she made everybody laugh. So,
well, and the fact that the players themselves for the home run derby, I mean, they showed them a couple times and they weren't really budging. You could tell that they were like, what's going on right now? But once they showed and they panned over the crowd and kind of, showed everybody, everyone was like, is this for real right now? Laughing, chalking it up. It was just embarrassing. I felt embarrassed for her because she really just went out there and totally flopped,
Picture us. We're sitting at the home run derby. We're getting ready to watch nukes. And then you hear that I'd be glad they didn't show me on the screen.
I made a point that I believe, honestly, people would have found my dog barking the national anthem more entertaining than listening to that. Because it was bad.
It was all right. It was really bad. Yes, it was. All right. Not too much hate. Listen, the home run derby in and of itself.
Let's stop harping on her.
Congratulations, Teoscar Hernandez. It was terrible, and that's it. That we'll move on from that. Enough. Bad talk on this poor lady who went to rehab for abomination.
So now, I think it's fair to move things into kind of a more positive light here and discuss the All-Star game itself, which took place last night, of course. What are your takeaways from the All-Star game?
I mean, it was exactly David Fry showed up with an RBI. Clase proved why he's the best closer and why he's the closer, and I mean, it was typical. You obviously would have liked Kwan to just go up there and mash a single against Paul Skeens in the first at bat. Paul Skeens is going to be a phenomenal pitcher for a very long time. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I mean, and once again, the AL just shows another reason on why they're better than the NL. I mean, it's 11 of 12 years now that they have won, and the only game the NL won was a 3-2 grueling match in 2019. That's it.
And that 2019 game happened to take place in Cleveland, Ohio.
I mean, you hate to see it a little bit, and hopefully it comes back around again. It will. But that is a little bit unfortunate. That was a fun one, though. That was a very, very fun one. I think.
Did you attend that?
I did not.
No, me neither.
I went to some festivities before, a couple little festivities. Went into Cleveland to see what it was all about, but didn't ultimately go to the game. No, but it was good down there. It was good down there. I really did wish I went. Obviously, Spaceball, especially with all the stars out there.
Right.
You hate this. You hate to.
You can't win, man.
No, we can't. The NL's in shambles. No matter what God squads they assemble, no matter who they put on the roster, they simply cannot beat the AL. And why? Because the small market teams like the Guardians are putting up 5 All-Stars.
Yep. 5 All-Stars out of Cleveland.
Tied most with another. I mean, with Baltimore, who's just a straight young studded team.
Absolutely, and to see Soto and Judge not really make too much of an impact for the Yankees for the All-Star game,
David Fry hit in Juan Soto for his RBI single.
I like to see Cleveland getting in the mix and
Oh,
making an impact. And David Fry, it's not Friday, it's Tuesday. It was
that's
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It was Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
David Fry sure fast forward a little bit to Friday and showed the league and showed the whole world what he's made of.
No, he really did. I mean, and to be honest with you, it was awesome. It was a cool thing to watch. Obviously, Jose didn't have the results he wanted. Kwan got on base the once, but I believe he had the walk, scored once, and David Fry obviously had the hit. You had Clase come in with the save, 2 strikeouts, gave up the 1 hit, but ultimately got the job done, and the AL would end up taking that one. Clase gets his second save for the AL All-Star game, or just All-Star games in general, is the second save. Also leads the Major League in saves currently heading into the second half of the season.
It's impressive.
He's a gunner. Even when we weren't doing that good last year, he was still leading the league in saves basically the entire time. I mean, it's just he's that good. He is that good. But I mean, what were your thoughts on the All-Star game? I mean, that was a star-studded show.
Personally, it really was. It was nice to see Kwan leading off for the Guardians to start for the American League. But when you're pitching against Skeens to start the game, that's tough, man. That's tough.
Especially when you've never seen him before. So you're going up there with no idea. He's throwing 101, 102, and you're sitting there, no idea. You're just hoping. Right. You're praying.
Absolutely. So for Kwan though to draw a walk at one point, that was enough to, I guess, draw my attention in a little bit more. But then once Ramirez really just couldn't get going, Naylor really just couldn't get going either. It was. But they got to share the love in the All-Star game. They're mixing players in and out of the lineup.
Of course, whole time, the entire time.
And some of these guys are used to their designated spots, or flip-flopping here and there for their everyday teams. But once the All-Star game comes around, it's just a totally different feel. And so for some of these guys to step in here and have bigger roles than sometimes they're used to, not so much any reference to the Guardians, however, but some of the other guys in the American League, it took them a little bit to kind of get going. But to see David Fry, like we mentioned, get that RBI, and put the American League in position to strike and to come away with another win. That Clase is waiting up in the rafters, waiting to come in. So, he's always ready. He's always on top of his game.
And you'll never miss.
The flamethrower was alive in Texas. The flamethrower came to life, and I loved seeing Clase close the game out. Like I did. Second All-Star game save. And the MVP ultimately went to Duran from the Boston Red Sox.
Great story, by the way. If anybody ever has a chance to really dive deep in the Duran story, it's a great story. And seeing him win that, as much as I'm not that big of a Boston fan, nonetheless, but 100%. I respect it. Respect is given for sure.
So the main thing too with that was I had heard Duran was playing Division III baseball or something like that.
Yep, D3.
Division III. He found out he had diabetes one of his years in college, and once they got him going on his treatments and everything, he hit a growth spurt, when he's 21, 22 years old, and I mean, he grew like crazy. And so the fact that he grew in college and was playing a position, I believe he was, what was he playing? I can't remember exactly the position he was playing, but he transferred from whatever small school it was to Gardner-Webb, I think it was.
Gardner-Webb, yeah.
And from Gardner-Webb, he had a great year, and he ended up getting drafted in the 3rd round. Everybody was like, who's this kid? Who's this guy? And ever since, no one's forgotten his name.
No, I know. I mean, and to be honest with you, Yeah, it's all around. It's a great story. Definitely wasn't supposed to be here. Definitely proved some people wrong for sure. And I really think the All-Star game, it's kind of funny because the NL started off throwing the heater as their starting pitcher, and the AL closed it down with the heater, with the flamethrower. They said, "All right, anything you can do, we can do just a little bit better," and they close it. They close out of a really
Don't test us.
no
Don't test us, boy. We'll throw everything we got at you.
no.
And that's exactly what they did.
It's as simple as that, and Clase gets the job done. The AL go on to win another one, add it to the trophy board, the collection board, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the AL is just it's dominant. It's filled to the top to the bottom. That team was insane. I mean, even the closer before the closer was Mason Miller, and Mason Miller had a great. I watched him strike out Otani. Fantastic. I mean, he's so good, and the fact that he's the last Oakland Athletic All-Star ever is crazy. If you think about that, because they're going to be in Sacramento next year, so they will not be the Oakland Athletics ever again, and he will be the last All-Star.
That's a good point. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, he was on. Yeah, he went on a radio show, and they asked him. They were like, they're like, "How do you feel that you're the last one?" And he goes, "It's sad, it really is. It sucks. I mean, you hate to see it for a fan base because you think about it as a Cleveland fan. If Cleveland was just like, all right, we're leaving and we're going to Vegas, we'd be torn. We would be torn. I would be torn. I already lost Chief Wahoo. I don't need to lose the team."
At that point, I'd just stop rooting for him. I mean, I don't know if a lot of Oakland fans are going to necessarily root for the Vegas A's anyways,
They didn't in the beginning though, so that's a little different. They didn't really do that from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know, but the Oakland story of losing all of the teams that they have, definitely disappointing. Definitely disappointing. That's all that city really has.
I mean, what? It was 16, 17, 18-ish kind of era that they were Cespedes. That team was going to the playoffs. They were packing house.
The Warriors were winning championship after championship.
Packing house? I mean, the fans were flooded to the brim. Nobody even... Go ahead.
I was going to say, the Raiders have always been a huge favorite. I mean, an all-time historic team that you could find fans all over the world even.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just like the Browns. There's Browns backers bars in Europe. It's one of those things where it sucks to see. I mean, it really doesn't. The fact that Oakland is basically just getting scraped away of all of their happiness in sports, and it's all going to the same stupid city of Las Vegas. Oh, dude, I'd be so mad. So mad.
It's a huge cash cow, man. Vegas is.
It's not that far away. Let's make that clear. It's really not that far away, so it's not that big of a deal. But nonetheless, I'd be pretty mad. Like if we got moved to like Louisville, I'd be like, what?
Kentucky already has a team, the Kentucky Reds.
And that'll be it for the show today, guys. It was a great. No, I'm playing.
I don't consider Cincinnati.
They all right. Listen, it's basically Kentucky. They just gave it to us because they felt bad. We had nothing else going for us, I guess, or something. I don't know. But
I won't get into my Cincy rant, but I can
no.
About
an entire Cincinnati rant. Is crazy. But all right. Nonetheless, I think it is time to start in a little bit of the second half of the season for our Guardians. Before we do that, real quick, I'm just gonna pan over to this and just gonna tell you guys to don't forget, as you see on the screen, the social medias. We got the YouTube, Instagram, X, everything for the Daily Dose. That is the Daily Dose, capital TDD. 3 is the E. And then also on the right is Dominic Pagura, Dominic underscore Pagura. That is the Instagram for Dom, the man, the myth, the legend. And then Double A Hunt with 2 underscores is indeed my Instagram for yours truly.
So I do want to ask real quick, how many people do we have watching right now?
Was it was 5 about 2 seconds ago.
What are we at?
It's, let me refresh here. It is sitting at 3, 4.
To the 4 you watching.
We absolutely appreciate all 4 of you guys that are watching today. We really do. I mean, it's absolutely goated. It's some real goat talk for sure. Yeah, it is. It's some real goat talk. We really do appreciate you guys. But I mean, listen, if you were a Cleveland Guardians fan in spring and they were telling you that this team was going to be tied with the best record in the AL, what are you thinking?
You know, I did a lot of preseason predictions. I didn't think, I'm very optimistic.
Of course, we're Cleveland fans. We live optimistic.
And to have looked back and reflected on the previous 2 to 3 seasons, the Guardians have been consistent in the terms of winning, but not winning the way that we want them to win. They've always been able to win and, take games here and there to keep us in the hunt, in the range of 500, sub 500, and to see last season kind of crumble the way that it did. Looking back on 2022 season, it was the second half that was our big downfall. Last season, it was kind of the same thing all year. We just could not find our groove really.
No.
We'd have a couple games here and there, and then a couple games where we'd start to let up a little bit. And it was consistent like that all year. And I think that was when everybody was like, all right, we love Tito. He's a Cleveland legend. He's a baseball legend, but it's time for Tito to move on, and it's time for the Guardians to look in a new direction. And they ultimately went with Stephen Vogt, of course, former player for the Oakland Athletics.
Legend already.
I was really surprised that he was able to come in and make the impact that he did right off the bat, especially seeing the amount of young talent that we have and the amount of talent that is, rotational in the terms of coming up from the minors and getting sent back down. We have those guys that they know they're not everyday guys. They know that they're on the verge of getting sent back down, and their position is always kind of an open door. But for the command that the Guardians have shown this year, they went from they couldn't stop finding ways to lose games to they can't stop finding ways to win games. That's been the biggest takeaway looking back, comparing last season to this season.
That's it. That's exactly what I was gonna. That's literally exactly what I was gonna say.
Because probably about 3/4 of the games that we have won that have put us over the win total that we have compared to some of these other teams in our division and in our conference. A lot of those games, I mean, those were close games, and you have to win the close games. You have to win the games that you're like, man, this could go either way. Has to go your way. And they have been able to do that. Getting closer to the All-Star break, however, I think we've started to kind of slip up a little bit. Nothing to be too worried about, however. I believe it's just, it's midway through the season. I mean, it's a long season. They got a lot of games, and they can't do it every week, and they can't do it every night.
No, and they really can't. And once again, I mean, you absolutely you killed that. That was exactly what I was gonna say. this year compared to last year is literally just two teams that just went opposite ways,
Yep.
and it's really just. I mean, obviously, Stephen Vogt becoming the manager, it was interesting. Not only because he's a first time manager, but because he also just was a player. It was so recent that he was a player that it was like to be a manager so quickly. Like I'm a manager, I'm here. Like I now like because I mean going from the mindset of a player to the mindset of a manager is not easy. It's not easy at all. And the fact that he could do that so quickly while dealing with doing it as a first time manager, but also doing it successfully. He built a very good team around him. He built a great foundation. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, you look at this team, and you're like, I mean, they almost have no flaws because every time it seems like they're starting to gain one, they switch something around and somebody steps up and somebody starts. I mean, it's somebody every single time they'll get into a little rut, and once again they're one of the only teams that hasn't lost more than 3 games in a row. They have not lost 4 in a row. They've yet to do it, and it's resilience. This team, no matter what, walks into the ballpark knowing that they can and will win, and they're talented. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't deny that Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, David Fry. I mean, at this point, Andres Jimenez has been pretty consistent this year. There's a lot of people that have been consistent, and there's a lot of people that have fluctuated. I mean, Arias has done things. Brennan has done things. Sheeman's come up here and become an insanely big piece on this team. Martinez has come up here, and he looks awesome. I mean, from his plate discipline, which is one of the hardest things to do when you are a young hitter that walks into the major leagues in general.
Joaquin Noel.
Big Christmas.
Big Christmas.
Big Christmas. He makes Christmas in July look so much more enticing. That's for sure. I mean, what a guy. I mean, that guy is just a different breed.
What a guy.
At first hit was an absolute nuke at Camden Yards. I mean, that's something you're never going to forget in your life.
No
never.
Way.
You threw the bat and then you proceeded to hit a nuke. It's great. I mean,
he launched that bat into the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, he was just telling them where it was going to go. He was telling them. He's like,
watch.
The ball's next.
The ball's next.
I mean, yeah, this team is great. Everything about this team is looking really good. They just need to kind of sharpen up the pitching and kind of keep us. I think they need to consistently put a lineup that is semi the same more often.
And the fact that I totally agree with that. The consistency in the lineup is a huge key because a lot of times you have to have that fluctuation of players. You always have to have that, but
of course.
Not so much in the sense of moving guys around in the batting order. That's where it gets kind of iffy because if you're an everyday 1 through 5 kind of guy, there should be no need to move you past 6 even. And not saying they necessarily do that too much. But I think that with the rotational guys that they have, not Kwan, not Ramirez, not Naylor, but some of the other guys like Schneemann, Bo Naylor, Angel Martinez, Joaquin Noel, Rocchio, Arias, Freeman, Brennan. I mean, I could keep going if I wanted to. Those guys, it's interesting because those guys have their games and they have their days where it's like, why aren't these guys playing all the time? And then the next game you're like, that's why they're not playing every day. I know exactly why now. And I think I don't necessarily want to and or can think of pinpointing the blame on, the infield or the outfield defense necessarily when we're out in the field. But I think it's a little bit of a shared room there. I think the outfield has their fair share of issues, and all depends on the lineup that day. And same with the infield.
it,
Fair share of issues, but it all depends on the lineup.
no, I genuinely, I agree. I think they're starting. I think they kind of use the first half of the year to kind of figure it out. I mean, listen, with the spot that they're in, you had Manzardo, you have DeLauder, you have Joe Kenzie Noel, you have Sheeman, you have all these players that are getting called up because they have all this hype and they want to get them up because they want to see their potential, as especially as you start to approach the trade deadline and you want to see how these players are going to fare, maybe give some of them a little bit more value with some at bats. You sit there and they were playing a game of de-weeding as they sat there and de-weeded all of the kinks and random stuff that was just going on deep in the farm system. And I mean, you looked, Manzardo wasn't completely ready yet. Sheeman has come up here and looked amazing. Angel Martinez has come up here and looked awesome. I mean, and even Big Christmas has come in here and looked like he can supply big power to this lineup. And now you've seen Arias gets called down. You saw like the only player that really, other than Brennan kind of dealing with injury, like some of these players are getting called down and they're getting called down fast. And why is because they can get replaced. Mm-hmm. Arias is a player that you want, and I think Arias is one of the players the Guardians want the most. I genuinely think he's the one that they want the most to be good because he has the most raw talent in the sense of he has the power, he has the arm strength, he has the fielding ability, he can hit, and he in the beginning of the season he was looking really good. And now it's just we're starting to get to that point where they're starting to find other dudes who are showing more consistencies. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if people like Brennan and people like Arias and maybe even mix in like a Tyler Freeman or someone like that to be in one of these trades. Even like if you're going to get somebody like Crochet or Fede or from the White Sox, you might see a Manzardo in that trade. You might, and it hurts to say it, but you might, because they're gonna ask for a top farm system guy, and if it isn't DeLauder, if it isn't Manzardo, then it's starting to get to the people that you get even more scarier about. Like, are you gonna give up a Sheeman who's looked so good? Are you gonna give up an Angel Martinez, a Big Christmas? Are you giving up one of those players, or are you gonna give up DeLauder or Manzardo? Because I mean, at the end of the day, though, that's the asking price, and it's really just are we willing to pay it? And so they're sitting here playing a big game of chess, and I think towards the second half of the season, even at the end of that first half, the top 5 to 6 was fairly consistent. You had Steven Kwan, Martinez, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, and then a mixture between David Fry, Big Christmas, and Jimenez and a couple other people that were in that 5, 6, 7 or that 5, 6 spot. And so I think that part of your lineup to them is almost solidified. And then you start mixing in your Sheemans and your Freemans and stuff like that. And in my personal opinion, I mean the Niemans, the G-mans, the Ski-mans, you know what I'm saying? We got all the E-mans. But nonetheless, I think they're gonna kind of fill out those last couple 3, and they're gonna mix. Listen, David Fry is gonna get his glories against his lefties. He's gonna be a plug and play kind of guy. There are gonna be your players that kind of switch a little bit, but they need to keep their consistent 6.
So, looking ahead, the trade deadline is in 2 weeks. You
Yeah.
named two players from the White Sox. Anybody else around the league that you're kind of looking at that you think we should go get that guy?
I mean, it depends on what they're looking for because, in my personal opinion, somebody that did look good on a fielding perspective, if you wanted to squash the whole is Rocchio, Freeman, or Arias going to play shortstop, you squash it and you get a Bo Bichette. Or and I saw that and it appealed to me because Bo Bichette's one of those people that is a good player, and I genuinely think if he got put in the right situation, could be an even better player than he is right now.
And don't forget, the Toronto Blue Jays just took a catcher in the first round of the MLB draft.
I mean, it's an interesting game because if you're gonna go that direction, I mean, someone like Bo Bichette is, I mean, almost the most ideal landing for anybody, and I think
I think that kind of doesn't really guarantee that Bichette's going to get traded, but I just think I don't know. I because they have a decent farm system. I can't pick out names in particular, but the Blue Jays have a decent farm system to the fact that they could give up a guy like Bo Bichette, or even. No, I'm not going to go there.
No, you can say it because it's true. It's true. They could.
I don't know, man.
If they are sitting there looking at themselves thinking it might be time to look for next year. What are you gonna? I mean, you're rebuilding your farm system. That's what you have to do, and I mean,
right.
How else are you gonna do it? How else are you gonna do it? You got to get rid of somebody.
That's what I mean. Their farm system's good, but it's not like they have any huge prospects.
It's not the Orioles. It's not the Orioles. It's not the now Guardians, who are gonna slowly have a farm system that might just sneak its way into the top 5.
And don't forget the fact that the Blue Jays right now aren't in any contention. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. They're sitting there twiddling their thumbs, looking at the division like, what are we going to do?
And the only thing that's happened over the last few seasons is they've continued to go down and they've continued to decline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think a trade for Bichette would be really interesting. Looking around the league, it really is interesting because we do have DeLauder waiting up in the rafters. I know he's been dealing with some injuries.
He's injury prone. It scares me.
Him. But I was a big fan when they drafted him out of James Madison. I thought he could come in and make a big impact. I like Schneemann. He's not an everyday guy, but he could get there eventually. All these guys can get there. But if they are looking to make a splash, personally, I think they should leave the defense how it is, continue to have the guys that are waiting, have them, continue to be rotated in from the minors. Yeah. And I say you go after one of those starting pitchers from Chicago. I really think you do.
I genuinely, I mean, because they're both really solid. I mean, if I had a personal opinion, I'm taking Fede just because he looks better against us.
I agree.
And I don't want to see him ever again, so.
I also think trading within the division, especially a team like the White Sox, gives us kind of an advantage because he's played against all these other teams in our division. So he kind of knows what it takes to be play in the Central, what the stakes are in a division that usually comes down to just a couple games in between, the top team and second and third place. So I think that would be great for us to go and do. And with that, I don't think there's much else with the trade, because we're a small market team with such a low payroll that it's best to go into the trade deadline with low expectations because most of the time we don't spend that money.
Because we're not. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, we're gonna do it something else with it. It's disintegrating. It's going somewhere else. And I mean, to be honest with you, it needs to go to Quan. It needs to go to Josh Naylor. It needs to go to one of these guys that are coming up for that contract. And to be honest with you, it won't be all of them, which is sad. I mean, it could be, but I don't think they're going to spend the money for it, to be honest with you.
Key takeaway from this conversation looking ahead at the second half: rotation, rest, and discipline. They need to continue to keep those three things in play at all times, especially with the second half of the season. I mean, this is where it's like, let's see who the phony teams are and let's see who the legit teams are, because I think a lot of people right now are kind of thinking, yeah, the Guardians they're the number one team in the American League right now. We have the highest winning percentage and the lowest amount of losses currently in the entire American League. Can't argue with that. But can they stay consistent and can they keep that going? That will be the biggest question.
It will 1,000,000,000% be the biggest question. And as we get into our next topic of discussion, which is the Guardians' second half, I guess predictions and kind of just taking a peek at how we're about to attack this next half with the hardest strength of schedule and a lot of home games, which is good because we are the best home team. But just one quick second here, and bang. And welcome, and we are back. Here we are, predictions. We got the second half coming up here. I mean, let's put it like this. Right now, if the Guardians did exactly what they did exactly the copy paste everything that they just did, they would be at 99 wins. The question I have for you is, do they hit 100 wins?
As much as I would love for them to, and it's definitely not out of the question, I will say. Personally, I think we'll probably peak out at about 96, 97.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, let's be realistic here. We have the hardest strength of schedule next year. It is going to be an absolutely grueling second half of the season. Thankfully, we got Gavin Williams back, who looks good.
Logan Allen return?
Will Logan Allen return? Will
Sticks return?
Will Sticks return? I mean, to be honest, with the fact that they signed Boyd, knowing that he was gonna be chilling for a while and not gonna come back for a long time, makes me think that they have no intention of bringing one of the two back. Unless they don't want Carrasco to throw, which is a very legitimate thing. But even then, I mean, so Boyd comes up and replaces Carrasco, then someone will say one of the two come back. Logan Allen or Sticks comes back and replaces what is that one, the new cat's name from San Francisco, the Giants. He had one start, did not go his way, that's for sure. But
shames me that I can't even remember his name.
Oh, I know. To be fair, he came in, started one game, and he gave up like 5 runs.
Right. Yeah. He
So,
didn't do very well.
but nonetheless, you have him. You take him out. You replace him with Sticks or Logan Allen, and then you have one of the two is still going to be sitting down there. Now, do you hope that one of them takes over for somebody? But if Boyd comes in and throws and proves that he's a top 5 pitcher, then who's going to replace who? One of them's going to stay down there. In my opinion, it's the injured one, which is Sticks. I don't think he should see. I think he should have surgery right now so he can actually try to come back and play next season. I mean, he's trying to play on an elbow injury. What do you like? At this point, the command is obvious. It's affecting his command and not his speed, which isn't good. I'd rather him throw 90 and throw and paint the corners like Picasso than throw 92, 93 and throw it right down the middle because he's just trying to chuck a strike. So, I mean, I don't think he should touch the field again. And I love him to death, and I had such a high praise for him, but he can't stay healthy, and he needs to get healthy. So, my personal opinion, he needs to stay in AAA for the rest of the year.
100% agree with you. 100%. And it's a shame, man. It really is a shame because Sticks has a lot of promise, and we could really use him right now. You know who else we could really use? And I'm not going to get too deep into it. Shane Bieber.
I miss him. I mean, I miss him more than anything. To be honest with you, I want the fact that I hope we get like Fede or Crochet, just for the sense of if you look at what our team would look like next year with Shane Bieber as the 1, Crochet at the 2, Bibee at the 3. I mean, Gavin Williams at the 4. Sticks at the 5 if he's healthy.
Don't forget about Daniel Espino too. He plays down, and I know he's been dealing with injuries too, but he's one of our top farm players right now.
I need you to hear that if you have a fully healthy Sticks as your 5, your 4 is Gavin Williams, your 3 is Bibee, your 2 is Crochet / Bidet, and your 1 is Shane Bieber. Who is Espino taking over on that list? I mean, barring injury, there's nobody. There's not one person that this dude is gonna climb over. I mean, that's the best 5 in my opinion that anybody will ever see.
Agree.
And 3 of them are farm. 4 of them, because Shane Bieber was a farm system guy.
Right. Yep.
The only dude that wouldn't be a farm system guy in that is the dude you trade for. And that's cool. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we stand right now with the Cleveland Guardians, honestly.
I'm going to be honest with you, that is other than that, I mean, I think they'll hit 95 to 100 wins is my prediction. I'm going to stick more on the 95. I'll predict them at 96, but I just think this next half of the season is going to be grueling. 96 is pushing it, me being an optimist. If I wanted to be a feel like hater, I would say they're more in the 88 to 90 range. But I think that this team and this resilience of this team, I think they can do it. I wouldn't be surprised if they got 100 wins. I really wouldn't if they just showed out the next half. But other than that, we take our switch onto the next beautiful Cleveland team, which is the infamous Cleveland Browns. We have just a couple topics to discuss on the Cleveland Browns today. One of them being, if I look here, the Amari Cooper dilemma. It's a dilemma. I mean, at the end of the day, he wants to get paid, and the Browns are not made of money. No. And they have spent a lot of it. Andrew Berry has made a lot of moves, and I'm scared, especially with this Dustin Hopkins little deal that just got thrown into the mix this week. I'm scared that they don't have the money to give Amari Cooper. Are they gonna pay him? I mean, and especially with the fact that you just brought in Jerry Jeudy. And not only that, but you just paid him. You didn't just bring him in, you paid him. right in front of Amari after he just had a crazy season while getting the ball thrown to him by 5 different quarterbacks. That's I mean,
So to me, I mean, your point is 100% fair. The biggest thing with me, you mentioned the Jerry Jeudy signing and the extension there. It's tough. That's tough as the number one of a team to handle, or to kind of, let digest with you the fact that you weren't offered that extension first. But to me, it's tough, man. I personally think that Cooper is going to sign a year or two extension. It's tough though because the Browns, like, they're trying to win now. They really are. And I mean, it's been no question every year they've continued to improve this roster and continue to aim their sights at a Lombardi trophy. But at the end of the day, it's really difficult when it comes to the finances of some of these big time players, especially when you have room to look elsewhere and kind of try out different things. If the Browns are getting what they hope they're getting out of Deshaun Watson, it won't matter who that number 2 receiver is, whether that be Jeudy or whether that be, I mean, if Jeudy ends up being number 1 and Cooper ends up leaving somehow.
and that's what I'm scared of because who's our 2? If he leaves, our 2 is Elijah Moore. I don't maybe, but even then, none of the rookies looked that. I mean, they looked okay, and obviously you give them some slack with the fact that we had a quarterback dilemma again.
With the injury to Nick Chubb, and I mean he was squatting. I don't know if you saw my story.
I saw it 540. I mean over 5. It was over 540 pounds he had on that squat bar.
How many plates were on each side? Like
absurd. And I mean, regardless, he is 8 months out of knee reconstruction surgery, and he is squatting more than any viewer, any person that is listening to this could ever even imagine to do. Right after knee surgery. I mean, he's back. The Browns are going to be fine.
I agree.
The Amari Cooper situation, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. As a Browns fan, you watched him have such a good season. You would love to have him on the team, and you would love to see him get paid. But I believe in AB.
Last year.
I believe in AB. You said who?
Who won us all those games last year? Who won us all those games?
What do you mean?
Dustin
Hopkins. I understand. I get why we signed Dustin Hopkins. I'm not saying we shouldn't have so that we could sign Amari Cooper. I want a kicker. I would rather know who my kicker is next year. It's not that. It's you just hate to see the dude have such a good season and put it all out there for you in a year that really, when you look back at it, should have been so much more successful. But he still had all that success, barring all the BS that he had to go through all year. Everybody, the whole team in general, Cleveland, it just sucks to see, and I hope he gets an extension. I hope we don't have to worry about it for a couple more years, because if we got Coop and we got Jerry Jeudy and Njoku and Elijah Moore, and if Elijah Moore fits himself in that 4 option right there, this team is dangerous. This team is absolutely dangerous. From running back to quarterback to offensive line when healthy, wide receivers, everything. I mean, then you just tight ends. Then you just look at the defense, and it's absurd. The only decisions that Cleveland are gonna have to make are they gonna pay JOK? And are we getting a dome?
I don't know, man. It's really going to be interesting too. This is something I just saw online. Cooper, as great of a season as he had, and as great of a player as he is, this is not my opinion, but I am going to stir up a little question here. Would you rather the Browns sign a soon-to-be 30-year-old Amari Cooper, who could be on the decline, which again I don't believe he is, but could be,
Hmm.
Or would you rather the Browns continue to build around what they already have set in stone for the next 2 to 3 years? Because that's difficult because a lot of these guys are already set in stone. They're young. These guys are on contract for up until 2028 pretty much.
Yeah.
But the guys like Coop who aren't necessarily, um, it's difficult because when are you gonna draw the line with Coop? If he has another great year, so be it. But if you take that risk and say he gets injured, or because there were a lot of times last season when he had minor injuries where he even played through them or he didn't play, it was not so much worrisome, but it's like shit, we need Cooper.
Yeah, but it changes because he's not gonna get all as many targets. His targets
No.
will decline. They're slowly gonna steadily decline. He's going to become they want if I'm looking at this as a Browns as the GM, if I'm Andrew Barry, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I'm looking at this like I want Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper share a lot of similar traits. It's almost like they want Amari Cooper to just pass the baton to Jerry Jeudy slowly so that he can become the two. Jerry Jeudy can become the young athletic route runner, and Amari Cooper can just stay the elite route runner who can give you that quick catch, who can give you that really nice route that will just be open. And it's just he becomes more of the consistent guy who will just get his amount of targets, he gets his catches, he does what he does, and then you'll have Jerry Jeudy, who is younger, who's running the go routes, making the big catches, the sprinting down the field, making all the big athletic plays. I really think that's what they want to do because I don't think they want to get rid of Coop. I think what's taking so long is they want to extend him to the point where once the contract is up, they are done with him.
And that they're not in financial turmoil, I should say, in terms of where they can spend their
Yes.
money elsewhere.
Yes, 100%. They do not want they don't want him to they don't like they're not going to want to they don't want to keep him through his glory days, through his bare bones. I mean, they might just keep him and they might sign him, they might extend him on some BS thing and then they might go extend him a couple years down the line or whatever. I don't At the end of the day, Coop has done a lot for the city and I would not care regardless. I just personally think they'll extend him until they don't want him and then after that they'll maybe hope one of the draft picks show up, and if not, then they'll have a decision to make on how to get another one, and it'll be just like Jerry Jeudy, I bet.
And the Browns are really strategic in terms of how they spend their money, where they spend them, where they spend their money, and kind of how they spend it. So, in that case, you could look at 30 different outcomes of how this could possibly play out. Cooper's situation is very unique just based on his age and based on what he's already done in his career and what he is, I don't want to say demanding, but what he's asking for in terms of his contract. The Browns are going to stand pat with their offer 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
It would be a godsend for them to be like, you know what? We're gonna put a little more money into this than we usually do.
Yeah.
They have their strategy.
Yeah.
AB, love the guy. He has like money, like he's got a calculator in his head running all the time. He knows exactly what's going on.
And AB we trust.
How he can spend his money, and like you said, in AB we trust.
And AB we trust 1,000%. And to touch up on that and to move on to the next Browns topic, which I believe is the last Browns topic, which is just the dome. And I believe the Browns will get something done with Amari Cooper, regardless of if it's big or small. The holdout has been annoying for the sense of you didn't want this. The Browns are winning the media way too much. So the fact that they allowed themselves to get thrown back into it again, you always hate it. So, but nonetheless, I think Amari Cooper will be on the team for the next couple of years. And regardless of how they want to play that is really just up to what they've probably had planned for years, because they are definitely way more ahead of it than we are. That is for sure.
I
But
100% agree.
yeah, I mean, other than that, man, last topic,
Yeah.
the dome. What are we? I mean, to be fair, it's Cleveland's doing everything they possibly can to keep it. I mean, for great reason, because it makes them a lot of money. But we'll say this: what to you is the most logical option for the Browns to do? Take out what you want them to do. What if you are if you are the owner of the Browns, what is the most logical option for you?
If I'm the owner of the Browns, the most logical option to do, keep the stadium right where it's at.
You think so?
Keep the stadium right where it's at. Allow for the team to continue playing there, but based on what your plans are for the renovations, obviously you have to have a time frame and a timetable, because I mean these things aren't done in 6 months, 7 months. I mean a lot of these
Nope.
big renovations are done in a year
It
ish.
takes us some time.
So,
It's a long grueling process.
and I'm not saying tear the stadium down and build a new one. I think for them to and again, taking seating out, not taking good seating out, but some of the higher up seating, like the nosebleeds and stuff, if they were either to, condensing that stadium and ensuring that as long as the Browns are a decent team, you are going to sell 75% of your tickets each year. 40 to 50% of that's going to come from previous buyers and season tickets and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
But with that other percentage of people that are coming, those are the people that come in. I mean, they sometimes they do come to games, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't go to a single game all season. Sometimes they go to all the games. It's all based on what you think is going to put butts in seats. And if they're able to condense that stadium and take some of that seating out, but continue to renovate the stadium and give it a look that really embraces the city and allows for us to continue to earn revenue from that, whether that be for the Browns or for the city of Cleveland, that's got to be their big focus, because the Browns themselves are a huge moneymaker for the city, but so is having the access to host other events in that stadium and do other things with that. That's going to be the biggest thing, for the owners and for the city of Cleveland, with all of the plans for the lakeside renovation around the stadium, the plan for the land bridge to allow for fans and travelers, anybody to be able to cross from the center of the city down to the lakefront. That's going to be huge for them. That's where I stand.
Not even to make this all controversial. I disagree. I believe that the dome is the place to go, and it's simply for the reason that you stated, which is revenue. They're gonna make 10x the amount of money if they put a dome, strictly because you lose the stadium value from winter time to the second it gets too cold for people to stand outside to the second that it stops. You effectively lost your stadium value for months. And that's what's killing them right now, is that they can't do it, and Cleveland won't let them do it. We are not getting a dome in Cleveland. It's not happening.
The thing for me is, I should have made this clear. I didn't even mention anything of it. When I said condense the seating, I should have also mentioned putting a dome and adding a retractable.
You can't.
A retractable type deal to
they
that.
Can't.
You have to.
They can't. It would cost more than the stadium costed to build a retractable roof on it, because it can't be connected to a stadium that wasn't meant to hold a retractable roof on it. So
get
you
it.
would that's the problem is that no matter how much I want it to be in Cleveland, I cannot have a dome stadium in Cleveland, and I don't like that for the sense of it's just it's Cleveland. I don't get why if you have a winter that gets so cold that like it almost becomes concerning for fans to show up, why you should have to have a dome. It should be an automatic you have to have a dome, whether it's a retractable one that you can use halfway through half the season or not. I believe Cleveland, I believe Buffalo, New York, I believe every one of these teams, all of them should have domes. Like the only teams, Philly, like the only teams that shouldn't have domes are Miami, Dallas, like warm
But they already do.
Jacksonville. Like Jacksonville doesn't need a dome.
But they're getting one.
Kansas City doesn't. Kansas City does. They need a dome. They like. Why are we still playing in negative 10-degree weather? It makes no sense. You want you want your fans to show up, but you're just losing money by playing a football game.
Like you had mentioned, though, it's tough with a lot of these stadiums because I mean, like 4 out of 5 of those stadiums that you mentioned, excluding Dallas, I know they already have a dome, but like some of those teams you said, Jacksonville, Cleveland, Kansas City, New York, Washington, a lot of these teams, I know Washington's getting a whole new thing, but a lot of these teams, man, like you said, their stadiums are so old, and I mean, even in the 20 years that they've been, around, you can't build a ginormous new retractable roof on some of these stadiums that weren't meant to hold a roof. So comes a problem.
We are going to have like it's going at the end of the day it's going to be the Cleveland Browns. It's going to suck it's not downtown, but I'm giving it a good 80% chance that the Cleveland Browns are going to be played in where is it again? Brook Park?
Brook Park.
It's fine. It's fine. It's closer. It makes it so that it's closer for probably everybody because except if you literally live downtown.
100%.
It makes it 10 minutes closer for us. It makes it and it the only thing that's going to suck is how they're going to have to develop a lot the only I guess it's kind of a good thing is that they kind of get to develop the whole structure into the city to the point to make it like make sense because it is going to be weird fluctuating a city like Brook Park with just traffic because you have a stadium and then you're going to have to figure out how to get them all out in a reasonable way without destroying the city's traffic influx, which to be fair Green Bay and all these other places they figured it out, so I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. But nonetheless, I believe that the stadium is going to be in Brook Park. There's going to be a dome. They're going to make a big whole thing kind of like Chicago's planning on doing where there's going to be a lot of activities to do outside of the stadium. There's going to be a whole little like city almost in and of itself, which is going to be awesome. I mean, it's going to be beautiful. The Browns need it. We need to stop being known as this we need to rebrand this and the fact that we've done it with our play. Now we get to focus on the looks. Now we get to focus on the good stuff. But anyway, we appreciate everybody. I think that's going to do it for us here today.
I think so. Any closing remarks?
I think the only closing remarks that we have today is it was a fantastic time being with every single person here today. We fluctuated between a lot of different people. We appreciate everybody who came in here.
How many people we got right now?
We just dropped down to hold on 2, I think 3.
3, man. I appreciate it.
Listen, don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, some and ideas, anything really, thoughts, opinions on the show, don't forget to share it to a friend that enjoys Cleveland sports just as much as we do. Other than that, I mean, Dom, it's been a pleasure. Episode number 2 in the books. The All-Star Weekend is in the books. The second half of the Major League Baseball season is officially about 2 days away from being on your way, and we're gonna get all the coverage for it. We're gonna have all the coverage, all the reactions, all the news for you right here live on the Daily Dose show. Dom, it's been a pleasure. You need to go eat some food. It is time. It is time to relax, kick it, and don't forget to live life and enjoy yourself and watch Cleveland sports.
Watch Cleveland sports all day, every day.
All day, every day. Other than that, it has been your co-host, Alex Hunt, and your other co-host, Dominic Pagura. It has been the Daily Dose Show. We will talk to you guys later. We will see you on Sunday for our Sunday show, 7:45 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Other than that, it has been an absolute pleasure, and we will see you guys later. Peace.